Well, thank you very much for inviting me to give this encouraging lecture here. And I'll try to emphasize on the maritime domain, because as you know, in Israel, with the Air Force and the other IDF armed forces, unmanned platform is very developed. And since NMF and HMS are dealing with the maritime domain, I'll try to do it and to focus and emphasize on the maritime domain. Secondly, I would like to give a view from Israel, and a view from Israel in two different scenarios. First of all, I think that it was stated earlier that over the last 2 decades, unmanned systems have evolved from relatively simple surveillance and reconnaissance tool to sophisticated and increasing autonomous system of the systems. And unmanned systems increasingly act as the eyes and ears of the manned weapon systems. Man-unmanned teaming increasingly plays a significant mission critical role for navies. And AI-empowered systems are teaming with the manned platform to shape the path of the future operation. So you can see IAI, Maritime Heron. Later, I'll describe its mission within the Israeli Navy. Layers of encryption and other communication security ensures data streams cannot be detected or disrupted. It qualifies as a force multiplier and provides the necessary capabilities to meet the growing challenges of dangerous operations over large areas, and the dramatic increase in number of joint missions in which the Israeli Navy is using both manned and unmanned aircraft or boats has required implementation of special doctrines and enable a seamless operation. You can see here Rafael Protector unmanned surface vehicle. I would like to state that the technology is here. And when I'm teaching our students about innovation, I try to describe also the other two elements that sometimes is more important. Namely, when you are speaking about innovation, you should attach to each the doctrine, and sometimes more important is to do the organizational change to adopt this innovation. So that's what I try to emphasize. When we are speaking about missions or tasks or span of maritime tasks, I would like to concentrate on two selected scenarios from here. You can see each navy has the military task, has the diplomatic task, has the constabulary task, and I would like to emphasize on two of these scenarios and to go into details in these two scenarios. So the first one is how to secure vital infrastructures located in Israel easy. And the second one is to deal with secure Israel sea lines of communication in the Mediterranean as well as in the Red Sea and concerning to this mission. If you look to Israel, the size of Israel is very small to compare to the other speakers here, speaking from Australia or speaking from Israel. We are speaking here about a coastline in the Mediterranean of 195 kilometers and exclusive economic zone of 22,000 square kilometers. But in this area, we have a lot to secure. First of all, we have the shipping, the merchant shipping entering the ports. Then we have the gas infrastructure. In the last 10 years, Israel found and developed gas fields that Currently, our power stations consume about, or are consumed 70% of them with the gas from our gas infrastructure. 70% of our distilled water are coming from distillation installations locating in the seashore. So Israel EEZ is very sensitive, and we have to secure all this infrastructure, and especially the gas infrastructure. If you are looking at this map, you can see that with Cyprus, we have no problem. But here is Gaza Strip, and Gaza Strip, I'll display later the threats that we have there. In the north, we have Lebanon with Hezbollah with a lot of threats, and they mention, namely the gas infrastructure and other infrastructure ports, that they are their main target. So looking here, you can see what the gas infrastructure multidimensional threat. First of all, we can look at the UAV. In the drone threat, we faced it only last May, when the Guardian of the Walls in Gaza operation, Hamas, during this operation, several drones were launched from Gaza Strip to targets inside Israel, including Tamar. Tamar is one of the gas fields that we have, and they tried with their drones to hit this platform. The Israeli Air Force monitored the UAV until interception. And then we should mention that here we have some kind of, from the defense side, man-unmanned teaming, because as I'll show you later, the C4IR system, you need also to control UAV aircraft in such a mission. And as you can see here, finally, F-16 fighter with a Python 5 air-to-air missile down one drone, and an Aerodrone system intercepted the other. So from here, I would like to mention, if you would like to have this teaming of man-unmanned, you should have a very good multi-sensor integration, C4IR. And the various source, you can see it's coming from satellite, with maritime sensors, with aerial sensor, that some of them are UAV, and with coastal sensor. And then you have to define what you have to secure here. So you can see it when I put it here in the right side of the page. And then you can see what are all these unmanned platforms, because I'm relating also to satellites as unmanned platform, and you need to have all these kind of sources, sensor, to a decision making. Here it's come to the man-unmanned teaming at the upper level, because to get a right decision for a short time to intercept rockets and other threats, you need first to have a picture, then to display to the decision making, and then to react. It's near real-time data, and the past record, retrieve and investigate. In addition to it, you should develop and build multi-tier missile defense system in order to protect the area. And here I'm speaking about the EEZ, Israel EEZ. And we have several missiles which are for the various tiers to defend. So we have the Arrow 3 to intercept missiles who are coming from a long range, Arrow 2, David Sling and Aerodrome, and David Slings, which recently joined us, is responsible to intercept cruise missiles from a range, and other threats from a range from 40 to 300 kilometers. So it will gloss the David Sling to bolster the second tier of Israel theater missile defense system. I would like to go back here and to show you when I'm speaking about the threat. You can see here from Gaza Strip, we have it in seconds, and it's to the sea as well as to Israel. And from Lebanon, you can see the range. Actually, it is covering all of Israel area. So this is the system C4IR that you need to get the decision makers and with all the unmanned men making a good decision for that. So what is the defensive system with very shortened reaction time? And I'm speaking here about the challenges here. You need to have some kind of man-unmanned teaming, but sometimes you have to rely about the decision of the system. The enemy tries to saturate the system with a barrage of rockets, and so it's not to men to decide now how to react, but the machine. Probability of causing collateral damage in operating the system is limited. And that's one part of the advantage that you have a defensive system. And low probability of damage to IDF. It's effective engagement policy, because if you will waste your missile against a threat which is not a threat, or against a threat that will fall in uninhabited areas, it's a waste of missiles. And low probability of mistaken friend and foe, you require it also. One of the problems that we had in the Guardian of the Walls was that the Patriot system intercepted UAV belong to the IDF. So that's what we want from the system. From here, I would like to go to the second scenario, which is more complicated, and that's secure Israeli sea lines of communication in the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden. I am not mentioning here the Mediterranean because this task is easier. And the challenge that we have in the last year is how to do it in the Indian Ocean, namely the Gulf of Aden and the Red Sea or the Gulf of Oman. Israel is relying on this sea line of communication, and they serve commercial trade routes. Israel is an economic island with virtually all. It's approximately more than 99% by volume of its foreign trade transported by sea. Therefore, it's impossible to overstate Israel imported in the sea. There is a shadow war between Iran and Israel in the last few months. And in terms of maritime shipping, Israel is partially geographically disadvantaged. It has a good access to the Red Sea through its own naval port in Eilat, but further afield, Iran has an advantage due to the long Gulf coastline and its Houthi proxies in Yemen. So you can see here the Red Sea, you can see the Gulf of Aden or the Indian Ocean here, and you can see that the share of the trade that we have with the East is increasing steadily, and currently share for import and export, it is increasing 30% of Israeli trade. In the last few months, we have two threats. The first one with ships is the limpet mines. And you can see what does it cost to the ships and the several ships. You can see here the Helios ray. You can see the area when she was detected by the IPRD. The second one was the lorry in its way from Tanzania here. The third one was a Hyperion ray here in the entrance to the Hormuz Strait. But the last one was the severe one, was the Mercedes suite, which happened here in the Gulf of Oman. And there was an attack of a UAV, 2 times attack The ship was not an Israeli. It was flagged with a Liberia, Japanese-owned and managed by an Israeli-owned Zodiac Maritime. And the investigation made by the US CENTCOM came to some kind of conclusion that the ship was targeted by two unsuccessful UAV attacks on July 29, and then third one on July 30, which significantly damaged the ship and resulted in 2 deaths. So, and you can see the report from the CENTCOM, and you can see the damages, the whole, the infrastructure, what happened here, but more severe, 2 crew members were killed in this attack. So speaking about this, how we can overcome this situation, because it is securing sea line of communication. The threat now is UAV, and how to protect this ship against this UAV here. So there are two ways of doing it. First one, to decide that you would like to install on each one of the ship, and I took here ELTA Drone Guard, which is a system that is its mission is to protect ships areas from such an UAV. And you can see that it's a passive drone, but why not to use such a system? When we are speaking about a crew on this ship, it is a crew of people who are not permanently serve on board the merchant ship. They are not skilled to do such a things. And if you would do such a things, the regulation of the IMO will be very, very painfully. And when you know how a merchant company are working, they will put the cost on the people who will buy the merchandise. So my conclusion, and I think that that's the conclusion, that we should come back to a mission that a combined task force should protect such ships internationally, and it will protect them as we speak about freedom of navigation here. And for instance, this task force 150, it's based in Bahrain, and it's operating according to Security Council resolution, multinational coalition naval task force, 33 member countries, and the force conduct a maritime security operation outside the Arabian Gulf to ensure that legitimate commercial shipping can transit the region free from non-state threats. So when I'm speaking here, the technology is here, but we have to see how to use this technology to defend the international trade in this region from such an attack. As you mentioned, we have also some legal aspect here, but I think that the full forcible countermeasure, including destruction of dangerous roads, are permissible in the high of the sea and exclusive economic zone. And you can see that there are some publications mentioning about it. Here you can see in the military law review, though interdiction, use of force, and all such things. So I think that the technology is here. Doctrine should keep pace with it. That's what I tried to say in the beginning. Sometimes when you approach challenges and you would like to have innovation, it's not only technology. The technology in this aspect is here, but we have to adopt doctrine to assign such a mission to a combined force, to equip it with a system that the US now is developing. And this is the second scenario that I would like to mention as a perspective from Israel dealing with the maritime domain and not with the air domain. So what is my conclusion? An unmanned technology pervades the world of surface and subsurface combat, and its acceptance is a realm and well known. With a defensive system, the legal ramifications appear reasonable and sometimes even self-evident. Full forcible countermeasures, including destruction of dangerous drones, are permissible on the high seas and EEZ. No states can regulate or impede the right of navigation and overflight in this area. And with maritime combined task force, man-unmanned teaming can be shared to advance interoperability between the partners and between the allies. International collaboration, I think I didn't mention this slide, but I think that the message I succeeded to convey the message. One of the issues that was raised by the organizer is interoperability or international collaboration. And Israel, which is a pioneer in this area, in July 2021, Israeli Air Force have its first multinational or multi-international drone drill with 5 foreign militaries. When we are speaking about man-unmanned teaming, we should address it to different scenarios, because different scenarios require formulation of different operating doctrines. And in addition to adopting doctrine appropriate to the technology, it is also required to adopt organizational framework to this task. So I would like to summarize and to mention, when we are speaking here about challenge, when we are speaking here about man-unmanned teaming, we should not only address the technological aspect of it, we should also address the doctrine aspect, we should also address the organizational aspect of it, and I try to do it by showing here 2 scenarios as a maritime scenarios and what are the challenges in doing it. Thank you very much.